Welcome to this edition of the YAHOWAH vlog. I'm your host, Craig Winn. We're in our second episode of a new series, one that is exceedingly provocative. It is most revealing. It is something that I would never have expected to read. We're calling it The Last Word Picture. And it is about the final mashal. A mashal is a proverb. There are 31 of them, and this is the 31st. And in it, we have some disclosures that, well, are really quite extraordinary. To set this all up, one of the things that we must recognize is that as much as we love him and respect him for all that he has written and achieved, Dode had a horrible episode in his life. Dode, for those who do not know, is King David. He saw a woman that was another man's wife in a state of undress as he was uneasy late one night on the roof of his home in the city of Dode. Now, that probably tells you a great deal about his mindset as he is roaming around on the roof of his royal residence and looking all around. And he saw a woman, I think she was bathing herself. Her name was Bathsheba. She was married to an extraordinarily good man, a man whose name means the light of Yah. And Dode sent to Malak to fetch her. And they brought her back, and the two of them engaged in lovemaking. And she got pregnant. And Dode's first instinct was to try to cover up the mistake that he had made by asking her husband to come back from a battle that he was fighting on behalf of the kingdom of Israel. And when he came back, he was hoping that he would lay with Bathsheba so that when she delivered the child, it could be said that, well, it was the husband's baby. Now, of course, that was a long shot because she would not have known that she was pregnant for at least some time. And my guess is that the man, being as bright as he was, could count. But nonetheless, that was his plan. And yet her husband would not lay with his wife, instead slept on the floor. And his explanation was that his men were still fighting a battle, living out in tents in harm's way. And it was not appropriate for him to come and have the pleasure of his wife when his men were still being subject to the enemy. So the plan didn't work, and Dode came up with another plan, worse than the first one, far worse. And he went to his lead general and asked him to arrange for his son's death. You see, the man was the father of the husband whose wife he had impregnated. And his plot then was to have this good man go up against the most fearsome forces of the enemy, and then to have the fellow Israelites all withdraw from him, leaving him outnumbered and vulnerable, so that he would die, so that Dode could steal his wife. And it wasn't like Dode was love-starved. He came to Jerusalem with 7 wives and 10 concubines, and the text says in 2 places that he added considerable number to his wives and concubines when in Jerusalem. And Yah had never withheld anything from his beloved son. But when he did this terrible thing, YAHOWAH intervened in what was already becoming a strained relationship. bad became worse and they stopped talking. God conveyed a story through Nathan the prophet, which he told to explain to Dode, where Dode said, oh boy, anybody that acts that badly, death is the only appropriate penalty, and then a sevenfold retribution after that. And then Nathan said, YAHOWAH wants you to know you're the man guilty of that very thing. And they stopped talking. And they would go 14 years, really, without saying hardly a word between the two of them. And this is the man that YAHOWAH chose, the man he anointed, the man he loved most of all. And for those who are concerned that this would somehow disqualify Dode from serving as the Passover lamb or from fulfilling any part of the spring mikre, that's not the case. You see, God's not looking for perfection. He's looking for someone who is observant, thoughtful, who is responsive, willing to engage and do what needs to be done. And that who, when he trips and falls, gets back up. When he makes a mistake, admits to it and grows from it. Dode was wallowing in shame, likely numbing his conscience with wine, with alcohol. And so they were in a spiral that was very difficult to get out of, because God couldn't compromise on who he is to put his arm around Dode figuratively and say, hey, it's okay, because it wasn't okay. And a relationship doesn't work unless both parties contribute. And at this point, Dode was not contributing. He had been selected, but he had deselected himself. And God had made a decision going way back to the beginning of the process, whereby, excuse me, just one second. My Labrador is injured herself the other day by biting her paws, and so she thinks that when we sit down to this show, she has a free go at chewing on her feet, and it's going to cause her considerable pain thereafter. So we don't want that to happen. So pardon me. So God had made a decision based upon the request of the Israelites, of which Dode not only represented, but was king over and exemplified, that it isn't appropriate for God to intervene and speak directly to his people, because he's just too bold, too intimidating. His presence is just too far removed from ours. And the children of Israel told God, we don't ever want to see your brilliant light or hear your booming voice again. We want you to speak through people. And so at this point, YAHOWAH was speaking through Nathan, but it was not resonating with Dode. He couldn't get his beloved son's attention this way. And so God came up with a very interesting plan, and it is exemplified throughout the 31st Mashal word picture. And that theme, oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Leah.
You share it with your Wookiee.
Yeah, speaking of my Wookiee, yes, my Wookiee loves cappuccino. He came up with a plan that God must have recognized that this was going to occur 3,000 years at least before it happened, because he announced that plan on the way out of Eden, when the relationship with Adam had not gone as he had hoped. And Adam failed to be observant, failed to be thoughtful, failed to be responsive, and most certainly failed to be responsible. And so as a result of all of that, God had announced the plan that he was going to deploy. And while there are numerous people in God's story that live more than one life, there are some that are exemplars of that, like we hear that Enoch was, and then he was not, for Yahweh took him as an example of God inserting someone and then removing them as he sees fits. Even the man's name really isn't Enoch. It's a name that is derived from the Hebrew word for mortal. And so God would interject and remove throughout the timeline mortals to resolve key issues. And this is the most important issue that would ever exist, because it is this issue. We have Leah now in this program, and I wanted to make certain she is properly illuminated, although she has a lovely glow all of her own. But we now have a light on Miss Leah. Now even two. So what God needed was a way, without his direct intervention, to have people that he knew he could trust intervene on occasion. And I've shared that with you in the last program. I don't know how much of it resonated, but the high likelihood is that when God wanted to work with Noah to save a remnant of Nasalma man, those humans outside of the garden who had the benefit of a conscience, the Nasalma that made Adam so unique. That the woman who is never named, who is his wife, who provided the support for she and her family to live apart from the community of men called Nephilim. This was such an important moment to salvage the human experience. I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of the times that God inserted this woman that he refers to as his Amma. This would be the most productive of women. There is another time when it is highly likely that she appeared again. She's actually called the Amma, and she engaged to save Moshe when he was a baby, and to get Moshe in the proper place for him to come to know and ultimately reject the religiosity and the politics of the pharaohs in Mitzrayim. And in that environment, had she not been inserted, this Amma, productive mother, Moshe would have died. The Pharaoh was perpetrating genocide on Jews by killing all the baby boys. And he certainly would not have been educated to the point that he could write the Torah as Yahweh dictated it to him, had it not been for that experience. Now, there are others along the way. When Moshe would have his meltdown, he saw the solution, because two fellows were filled with the Ruach and were speaking on behalf of God. We don't know what they said, because what they said at that time was not germane to the story, and we'll never hear them again. But they were Eldad, which means Yahweh's, God's beloved, and Midod, the one who reflects the nature of Dod's brilliance and love. Now, as we progress through the story, I think it's apparent that that Obed-Edom, the man who intervened to help Dod relocate the Ark of the Covenant in Jerusalem, is likely the husband of the Amma. And we find symbols, particularly of her, well, both of them really, but speaking of her, throughout the text, when my wife, Leah, first ran into me online, it was as a result of Yahweh responding to a question. She had it with the rabbis, knew they were lying scoundrels, had studied their text and was disgusted by them. I had read the what was called mistakenly the Bible from cover to cover, and couldn't understand how the end of the book was so contradictory to the beginning of the book. And she just called out and said, God, I'm not sure I know who you are, and I don't think maybe you even have a clue who I am. But the fact is that I think you exist, and I'd like to know you, and I'd like to have some way of figuring out if there is some role that I can play once we become acquainted. And God heard her plea. Then he responded. And what did he say, Leah?
Go ask Ruth.
Go ask Ruth. Did you have any friends named Ruth?
No.
No. Were you aware of a Ruth?
Vaguely.
Okay, Ruth.
Vaguely. I woke up from the dream thinking Ruth, like Bible Ruth? I don't know a Ruth. Bible Ruth? Like I know I've heard it, but I have no idea what she did, who she was, what the story was. And so I went and bought a book.
And what we have subsequently found is that Ruth has a most interesting introduction. Ruth is approached by a man that we are introduced to as Boaz. That means with strength. Boaz is symbolic of a character so important in God's story that one of the two columns of the house for Yahweh's name bears that name, with strength, with power, in power. Boaz. It's actually Baaz, or Baoz would be the proper pronunciation if you were to look at the component parts. And he asked her a question. Who are you? Mm-hmm. The same question, wasn't it?
Same question I asked you.
Yeah. Who are you?
Who are you?
And she says, I am Ruth. I am the Amma. I am the productive woman. And as your productive woman, I am responsible for delivering the kinsman redeemer to you, Boaz. Now, that's quite a statement. When you think, go ask Ruth, and that's the answer. And from there, you're looking at, well, Amma has translated so many different ways, and it is typically rendered female servant.
Yes.
But it's not from Ebed, no, which would be servant. Not even close. No. It's from which would be properly pronounced actually M, because it's the Aleph, the same Aleph. That's the first letter in Yahweh's title, El, God. The first letter in Yahweh's favorite distinction, Ab, Father. It's the Aleph, followed by a Mem. The Mem says that this is the source of cleansing and of birth, of water, of life. And so it's Aleph, Mem, followed by the Hey. And sometimes the Hey at the end of a word makes that word feminine. But it would be a bit verbose to make mother feminine, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
So why don't we?
I don't think that Yahweh has any gender studies programs going here.
No, for women, not for mothers not being female. No. So we'll go out on a limb here and say that the ending for M, mother, was to convey something different. And in studying Yahweh's transition, for example, from Adam to Amma, and from Par, bull, to Para, productive bull, from the Etz planted in the garden to Etzah,
Productive garden.
being not only the tree, but the full productivity of that tree so as to tell the entire story and deliver its fruit. There are many Hebrew words that when offered the hey conclusion, which is drawn as a person standing up, reaching up to God, signify that that word is becoming even more productive. So Adamah would be productive man. And para would be productive bull. And so Emma or Amma would be productive mother. And so here she is. She says, I am that person. I am a productive mother. But you read it according to the translations at the time, because there's nobody that has figured out either one of those two things I've just shared with you.
No.
And so that was not known at the time. So what you were looking for is the good woman. She's saying, you know, I want to deliver the all, which would be the kinsman redeemer. Well, that's a big damn job right there. And she was saying, you know, I'm here to serve you in this way. And so who is this woman? It was your next question.
Yeah, who is she?
And so you did what you could do at that point with the internet. You Googled it. And what you were led to were my books. And you were led to my books because I was the only person at the time exploring the idea that there were things that are considered feminine, at least they have a feminine designation, that are ascribed to YAHOWAH.
Yes.
And even though YAHOWAH always represents himself when writing about what he is doing as masculine singular, there are a number of things that are feminine that are associated with him. Excuse me. Okay, you gonna do it? Come on.
And it was a very big departure from what the rabbis were teaching, which was absolute female hatred.
Yeah. So I had written extensively about the ruach, which is spirit in Hebrew, being a feminine noun. I had written about the Torah being a feminine noun, about the Bereth covenant, feminine noun. And I also shared that nephesh, soul, is feminine, even when it is in a man.
Yes.
And that there was something about this that was conveying a more complete individual. It's someone who has the rationale and the reason that might be the ideal expression of masculinity, with the love and emotional appeal and intellect of a woman. And that God therefore had maternal and paternal characteristics, even though he always expressed himself as father and never mother. But
I have a very male brain, and yet I do consider myself a woman.
Yeah, I would too.
So
yeah, pretty much can attest for that. But yes, you do have some more masculine
adrenogenic
mental
brain.
Attributes, and that you are a lover of logic.
Yes.
And you like to hide your emotions as opposed to project them. Mm-hmm. That makes you a little different in that regard. My Wookiee says, I am special, but I don't know what I do not know.
He doesn't know what he wants.
What the Wook actually wants. So we're going to let the Wook chill. All right. So with all of that, that is what directed you to me.
Yes.
Because I had written extensively. I was the only one writing extensively in this regard.
Absolutely.
Although the rabbis do have a very odd projection of God being, are you going to come? Come on. Of God being maternal. What he really wants, folks, and I know this sounds somewhat embarrassing, but he wants me to dip this stick into the fluff of the cappuccino,
like his mommy does,
and give it to him so that he can enjoy it, because that is what Leah does for him. That is, you see,
those are his expectations.
That is what he actually wanted So, buddy, you're gonna have to stay right on that side, okay? You can even have my cappuccino. You can go for it. Whatever it is that trips your trigger, there, young man. Okay. So much for my cappuccino. I'm not sure we're good parents here.
He just goes for the milk anyway.
In this regard, but so that's what brought Leah to me, because I was the only person expressing these thoughts, other than the rabbinical craziness of the Shekinah. Shekinah. The difference is ruach.
Just that word gives me the chills.
Ruach is a term that's found in the Torah and the prophets.
Yeah.
Nefesh, same thing. Torah, Bareth, all of the things that I'm talking about are found throughout the Torah and prophets, and I let God's words speak. They made up theirs. Shekinah is not found anywhere in the Torah and prophets. It's a rabbinical term, and they present it as a religious presence of their God projected through their women, so that, like Roman Catholicism with the Queen of Heaven and the Mother of God, there is a feminine and maternal figure for women to venerate, so they don't feel left out of the religion, because in rabbinical Judaism, Hashem is not for them. No. The Torah is not for them. So they get to be the queen of the Shabbat with the Shekinah. Yep. So that did not appeal to you, because when you first met with the rabbis to learn about their views on things, they expressed their view of femininity, which is when you were a young girl, the rabbi put his hand up your skirt. Yep. That probably was not the best way to explain God's potential interest in your life.
Definitely not.
So with this known, you as Lisa, which was your name at the time, wrote me a letter and said, "Who are you?
Yes.
Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
And she said, I've, in all fairness, I've spent the last week or so reading each of the books cover to cover multiple times. Brilliant, insightful, learn more about God in this 2 weeks than all of the rest of my life combined. But I still want to know, who are you and why are you doing this? Because at the time, I was writing under the name YAHOWAH. My name didn't appear anywhere.
No.
And she was actually a little testy in her letter.
Most Jewish people are.
Yeah, she was a little testy. And so,
why are you doing this? I didn't get it. Like, what's your interest? Don't you have the Christian stuff? Like, why? Why the?
Yeah, I was quite open that I was not Jewish, and that was offsetting for a Jew.
Yeah, it was very. Why are you doing this?
You all are told. Well, you're told by the rabbis to avoid the goyim. You're not actually told that by God. What God says is don't emulate the ways of the goyim, and he explains that those ways are religion and politics. I was anti-religious and anti-political, so I did not have any of the ways of a goy. And there's nothing wrong with goy. God does not make determinations based on race. It's his antagonism is for the propensity of the goyim to promote religion and politics. So anyway, I decided that this is a well-written letter and a woman definitely expressing interest in YAHOWAH. And so I wrote her back rather than peeved and say, "How dare you question who I am?" No, I didn't. I said, "Not for you to know. That's why I'm using YAHOWAH." No, I wrote her back a very nice letter and said, I happen to agree with you. I don't know why I'm here either. Well, in the sense of God should have been able to find somebody much better than me.
Yeah, that was the tone of it.
Yeah, that he should have been able to do better than me. But the fact is he chose me. And since he chose me, I made the commitment that I was going to go where his words lead. And I would devote myself to this process. And I have ever since. And I continue to wonder, why in the world would he choose me and not somebody else? And well,
so
of course,
why I chose you was because of your answer.
Well, yeah.
Because you treated the text more ethically and more astutely and more rationally than anyone I had ever met before. And I had done my research.
Yeah, if nothing else, I have been honest about this pursuit.
And transparent.
Completely transparent. I created a entirely different translation style for that express purpose, to be honest and transparent, and to be an effective teacher. And the translation style that I have invented is called Amplified. I call it Amplified. It's there, even though there is a Bible that calls itself Amplified, it isn't. Mine is genuinely amplified.
Let's call it expanded.
Yeah, hugely expanded.
Yes.
Because I will look at every potential nuance of a verb or a noun. For example, in this next statement, it says Asha M. Ani, and it was written in the call imperative, second person, masculine, singular. I am the only person to ever accomplish translations where I provide the reader with the most generic form of the verb and nouns being used, decoupled from the prepositions and pronouns and the like, but with the stems, moods, conjugations, all shared, so that you are now empowered as a reader for the first time ever to look up each word and validate whether or not I have rendered it accurately, since my translations are different than those found in religious texts.
Okay.
But I give you the ability, no one else has ever done that, transparently to validate everything.
Let's just say he shows his homework.
Yeah. So this is remarkable. And of course, the other thing I did is said, we're going to search the proper way. And to search the proper way, we're going to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, which really the same year as I began this became available as a research tool. And so we're going to begin using the Dead Sea Scrolls. If the Masoretic text is corrected by the 1,500 or 1,400 year older text, I'm going to reflect what's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then I'm going to do something else that heretofore had not been done, is that as I turn to the most credible lexicons and dictionaries that provide the original meanings of these words to the best of their publisher's ability, I'm going to scrub them with the diacritical markings so that we end up with just the letters that Yahweh had Moshe or Yashayah or Dode or whoever it was as a prophet write. And therefore we could look at the actionable root of those words. We could look at close cognates, and we could search their prior use in the Torah and prophets. And we had an entirely different way to go about accurately rendering the text. And then over time, I gradually became far more prone to fully incorporate the stems, which establish a relationship between the subject and object of the verb's action. The conjugations, which either elongate or make finite the time that the verb's action plays out, with a keen eye to the fact that there are actually 4 conjugations beside the perfect and the imperfect, but these other in the infinitive and the participle, the advantage of those is they create a verbal noun. So if God is saying, I want you to yada, and you really can't just simply say, I want you to know, because yada can be translated know if it's in the infinitive form, for example, because it is equal parts noun and verb, making it a highly descriptive,
yes,
actionable noun. And so it is, I want you to know yada. Would be the proper way to render it. And I think the first to fully incorporate the moods, the cohortative, the imperative. Like this sentence I just shared with you is written in the imperative mood. Imperative mood is a conveyance of second person volition. The cohortative is first-person volition. The juicetive is third-person volition. What a unique language to have that, so that you can actually convey the will of the speaker or of the person being spoken about, the intent, their desire. And then we did something I don't think anyone else has heretofore done, which is to equate Hebrew verbs with light. And I made the analysis to show that on a photon of light, time simply exists. You can witness all time on a photon of light. And therefore, if you're on a photon of light, you would be capable of seeing the future. And you could even report what you have seen in the past.
Yes.
So Hebrew verbs are just true in time. They aren't truncated in time. They aren't stuck in time in a past, present, or future sense.
They just are.
So this was an exceedingly logical approach to translation. Equal amount of energy placed on the explanations. So that every time there was a translation, there was an analysis of what those words convey and an interpretation of them and a connection with other things that God may have said on a similar subject, so that you could go from knowing, which is very valuable, to understanding. And that transition is by making reasoned and rational connections between things and finding common denominators. So this is what you stumbled into. Probably at the time I may have had 6 to 8 books published, and now there are 35 on the
come a long way, baby.
We've come. We have certainly come a long way. This would be one of the 35, volume 2 of the Coming Home series. And here, my lovely wife is the one who has doing the branding of these. This one rebranded with an introduction to God. YAHOWAH appointments. Actually, I think we ended up, my publisher made a mistake on that title and has since has to correct it, because it is the YAHOWAH series, volume 6, which is not actually an introduction to God. We made that correction. So much for my example, huh? How about this one? Observations, all corrected. All right, so this is how we met, and we met because Yahweh, when you asked him, God, I know you exist, I just don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I know I can't find you through religion, and I can't find you just trying to read existing translations, because they're too contradictory.
Too confusing.
Too confusing. So how am I going to figure out who you are?
Yeah.
And his answer was, go ask Ruth. And Ruth took you right to me.
Yeah.
And when you arrived, well, first of all, we communicated for 10 years after that.
Yes.
By email.
Yes.
And during that time, you would send an email at least once a week, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week. And it was always on something that I may have brought up on doing a radio show at the time. I actually did 2. I had YAHOWAH Radio and I had Shattering Myths during that time. And you would comment on something that I had done, said on air, or something that I'd written in the book that either you thought I had inadequately explained and that there was more to it than that, or that you wanted to challenge my conclusions regarding something. And we shared those emails once or twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, for 10 years before we met.
Torah. Yep.
Torah. Had a pretty good understanding intellectually of one another. During that time, how many pictures did you send me of yourself? None. That would be correct.
No personal information,
and
no pictures.
You are exceedingly discreet. So how many pictures do you have of yourself posted online? None. So I had no idea if you were 400 pounds or if you were 90 years old when we were corresponding. But here we are. 10 years after this, you had business in South Florida. I had separated from my ex. In fact, my separation from my ex And the announcement of it was within days of your separation from your ex, wasn't it?
Yes, you announced it on a Friday. I left on a Wednesday.
The prior or the previous? Previous
Prior,
one.
yeah.
Prior. So you left 2 days before you heard me announce that I had left.
Mm-hmm.
They were not stellar marriages.
Oh.
No.
No.
And from the time that you left and that I left, you actually ended up in a bit of a pickle there also, because you tried to help a man that was wrapped up, I think he's since passed away, wrapped up in all manner of conspiracies. And he was a co-host on one of my programs and probably upset more people than anybody that we have ever met. And he was having health issues and needed some assistance. You said, "Oh, what the heck? You know, I'm free at the moment. I'll go help." And he turned out to be ruthless.
Absolutely.
And he was deliberately luring women in and abusing them.
Mm-hmm.
And you found out about him and said this is wrong, and decided you would stand up to him and expose him.
Yeah. A very great cost to me personally. Yes.
And unfortunately, the woman that, because he had quite a cadre of
flying monkeys
and supporters, many of which have subsequently become covenant, and many of which pretended to be covenant and then turned and have returned to conspiracy. But the queen of that hive partnered with you.
Yes.
And even with me in trying to extricate you from that mess. But just one of the things that we learned through that process is that if somebody is vulnerable and they are in a position where they need help, I'm going to help them. And you saw absolute, resolute morality and judgment against the abusive man, and on your behalf, and even on behalf of the woman who later became a psychopath and became so harsh and hostile to us.
You took them both off the air.
Yes. And what did I ask in return from you?
Nothing.
Like, we still never met.
No.
No, in fact, nothing other than we continued to exchange thoughts on the Torah.
Yeah, that's it.
And quite some time passed. You had a reason to be in South Florida. And you said, why don't we meet for lunch? We've never met. Let's just meet for lunch. Okay, sure.
It's a long lunch date.
We go on a lunch date.
That was 8 years ago.
That was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost. Well, this week it was 8 years ago. And we haven't been apart since that time.
No.
So this is an online introduction.
Yeah.
By way of intellect.
We were pen pals for a long time.
No pictures, all pen pals for years. And then without ever having seen one another, we're actually introduced by Asher. Since you knew Asher's name from the shows that I was doing, that I had just picked up an 8-week-old Labrador, and
the cutest puppy ever. Oh my gosh, she was so beautiful.
And so we met via Asher. Did the
introduction?
The introductions. So this is how we're together. And then once you were here, you were a bundle of nerves.
Yes.
Boy, you had, your chief attribute at the time, I think, had to be anxiety. You had a full life and many outstanding experiences in your life, but you had been treated very poorly by some men in your life.
I was running from an ex who wanted to kill me. Yeah,
that's never fun. And you also had, unfortunately, without your knowledge, found some initial comfort in a woman who pretended to be your friend who was a psychopath. And that wasn't helpful either. No. Okay. So
no.
That was the condition. So this beautiful mind, beautiful rest of you, but a bundle of nerves.
Mhm.
And I'm the opposite of that. I have no anxiety.
None.
I have
No fear.
No fear, no anxiety, none of that stuff. And I said, all right, I can probably fix the anxiety because I'm pretty much of an anchor in this regard. I said, so
He's very anchored. Yes.
yeah, so I think this will probably work. And you occasionally have some anxiety now and again because you're an introvert, and what YAHOWAH has asked us to do, and particularly this revelation that we're going to be discussing again today, it does not allow us to be in the shadows.
No.
That was my goal. I'm sure it was your goal. I was happy as a lark being yada, anonymous and writing away. It had all of the benefits.
I am happy as a lark being a brand manager.
And
like, just nobody.
Brand manager behind the scenes, and I will promote yada YAHOWAH and yada. But you just can't do that alone. And now YAHOWAH has outed you.
Yeah. Thanks.
And it's
what
good.
A cruel thing to do to an introvert.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for me. I feel a little bit like JFK when he took his first trip to Europe, and at the time Jacqueline was quite the celebrity, and he says, obviously, Jacqueline Kennedy, and I am the man escorting her to Europe. He was better known to be Jacqueline's husband than President of the United States. And so we're now approaching a text that certainly elevates your status in this regard. So that's kind of a nice release for me, I will tell you, even if it's uncomfortable for you.
Thanks, pal.
So we're going to... So now you're getting a little feel for the story of Leah. We did the last hour on our initial episode of this, the final word picture, with the picture of the chair. I thought it was just brilliant editing on behalf of production, on behalf of Rich. First, I saw the empty chair, and you may have noticed it in the last program, this white chair, which is the one that Leah sits in when she joins us. And I figured that since we were talking about her, that Richard was being showing productive genius by showing that empty chair. Come to find out, he didn't know the screen was set in that position.
Forgot it was there.
And forgot to take it out from the previous show.
I thought he was being cheeky.
Yeah, so there we have it. I'm sorry to let your secret out of the bag, which you fessed up earlier today. So here we're going to return with Leah among us. I will tell you that as we proceed, there are many insights that are deduced from this that apply to all of us and that significantly enhance our understanding of exactly who YAHOWAH is and what he is trying to achieve with us, the very purpose for us existing in the first place. That is all presented brilliantly in these texts. And also that I didn't start making all of the connections and the pretext really to this last word picture as it is presented in the 31st proverb until I took the time. It was several days because this is really provocative material to translate it all the way through. And the reason we were drawn to this is that occasionally Leah, well, very often Leah will come in and she will give me 10 different things that I need to translate immediately and add to whatever book where I'm currently writing. And I'll say, I'm pretty good at doing 2 or 3 things at once, but 15 at once is more than I can handle. Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to do all of this, but why don't you pick one and I'll add it to the list. And then occasionally she comes in and she's like the Pirates of Penzance. She's about ready to pee in her pants, to quote a Pretty Woman, and that line. So it is. This was one of those occasions.
Yeah.
She says, "Oh my, oh my, oh my, my! You've got it. You've got to translate this.
This is
You
cannot be
cannot
ignored.
believe what this says." So when I began that show yesterday, and I made the conclusion that the person who is visiting with our king, Dode, 3,000 years ago, is my wife, is because, well, I had translated it to the end. And I know what it says at the end. And in the end, it makes it absolutely clear because she's married to Yada. And she is taking care of and serving the Zeroah. And then I looked at why she is called the Amma, and it took me directly to Leah's pronouncement and Ruth's pronouncement, and I knew that's how she and I met. And it has Ruth making that announcement and saying that the kinsman redeemer is then going to be delivered to the person who is symbolic of the role that I would play. And then I realized that there's two titles in this that just absolutely threw both of us for a loop.
Yeah. Unexpected.
Baal and Asher I used as names.
Yeah.
Titles and names. And these are titles and names that I had thought were bad.
Oh, we hated these names.
Because, well, Eliah went against the prophets of these two. He didn't go against the two. He went against the prophets of them.
Yes.
Who have nothing to do with them. And we subsequently learned that anything that Yahweh has that is good, Hasatan, finds a way to corrupt. And so you read that, and she is called Ashar. And you read, well, who else is called Ashar? And you go back and, oh my goodness, it's Leah. And I renamed you Leah because when the anxiety was beginning to fall from you and we were falling in love, you said, I want to have a clean break from my past. I don't like my name anymore. Would you come up with a name for me? Mm-hmm. There's not many women that say, could you rename me? Because, I want to be yours, not somebody else's. I don't want to carry that legacy anymore. And I said, okay. And just immediately, I said, you're Leah.
Yep.
And so you read about Leah, and the first thing she says is that I am Ashar. I am Ashar. And I am going to be known and celebrated as Ashar because I am providing a blessing and benefits to all women.
And the same wording that is used in Mashal 31 is used again in that specific.
Yeah. Then we looked at all the pretexts. Like going to re-engage at the pretext of this particular, I think it's the 86th Mizmor. Mm-hmm. And the previous statements, the one that spoke where Dode is saying, you saved me by sending your
Amma.
Yeah, your Emma. Emma. I'm always hesitant because Emma. I want to pronounce it as Emma, but people know it as Amma.
But it is Emma.
Yes, and he's saying that this productive woman, this Amma, is Yahweh's, and yet she is being presented to Dode as a mother, and yet she's Yahweh's, and she's absolutely a person, very real. She's human, and she's being inserted into the story as Dode's replacement mother for the mother he never knew. And you're reading this, oh my goodness, what are we really saying here?
Yeah.
And so it's very deep. And then I remember I had to spend 2 days agonizing over how this was possible, because one of the things that I shared with you is, and I've talked to Rich about this, is that I've learned enough about light, because light fascinates me, because Yahweh said that he is equivalent to light,
yes.
That he appears as light in our presence, that Hebrew is akin to light, and that it is simply exists in time, and that light enables us to have an appreciation of how prophecy is possible, because Yahweh's not predicting the future. He's actually seen our future.
He's viewing it. Yeah.
And reported it in our past. He can view all time at any time because of the nature of light. And it also tells us that this blue marble that we live on, that's such a protective and sheltered jewel conducive to life, is the only one we'll ever live on, because the distances are too great, because we can never even approach light speed. And there's just so much else that is part of it. The idea of being illuminating and transformative, E equals mc squared, that energy is equal to the square of the speed of light times matter. So matter and energy are the same things, just different amounts of the same thing. It is light that opened my mind to understand the Torah and how we become immortal, and how we transition from having physical bodies to having our souls enveloped in light. So all of this was weighing on me, because one of the things that you know when you study the constant, really fundamental control mechanism of the universe is actually regulated by the speed of light. Nothing can exceed it, and there's reasons why that's the case. If you could exceed the speed of light, then you would actually go backwards in time, because time stops at the speed of light. And so if you were to exceed the speed of light, you would go backwards in time. And if you went backwards in time, you would rip the whole concept of cause and effect. And the moment you do that, the universe would actually be destroyed. So you cannot go backwards in time. Now, that being the case, how does somebody that I love and know personally counsel Dode 3,000 years ago? And it took
I don't recall.
Yes. Well, I figured out how that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that's possible is quite simply that YAHOWAH, who created a three-dimensional alphabet writing system to create life, designated within those dimensions the ability to create the consciousness, or the nefesh soul, of animals, of which humans with a nesama are the apex. And we know for certain that individuals like Dode will have 3 lives. His nefesh soul will be put in 3 different bodies along the way. And we know that there are people like the witnesses, for example, Elijah. He will have at least 2, and we have determined he'll have 3. One's very, very brief, but he'll have 3.
Yeah.
And we know Dodia, he's coming back as King of Kings, and he fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Makodim. Therefore, there's 3. So he can take a soul, which is valuable to him, and place it in a body which is, for him, it's like us making a pottery jar. And they have no longevity anyway. They in fact, they're a liability for a soul once the soul has been enveloped in light energy.
Definite liability.
So he can take a body, and he can put a soul in that body at any time he wishes to. And he did this, for example, took his nefesh soul and put it in a physical body to have cheeseburgers with Abraham and Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he can do that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is likely that there are a number of souls that God created very early on in the process, that his intent was to use those nefesh souls and neshama to keep his intent moving forward on the schedule and in the method that he had designed. For example, if Moshe had been killed like all the other Hebrew boys,
we'd have no story.
We'd have no Torah.
Nope.
If Dode had been harmed in any one of those battles, we'd have had no savior. If you hadn't gone back, excuse me, that's incorrect. If YAHOWAH hadn't inserted you into the story, in this way as the Amma, his Amma, to speak to Dode. His relationship with YAHOWAH would never have recovered to the point that YAHOWAH would have trusted him to fulfill the spring mikra. And there would be no fulfillment of any of the 7 Moed mikra and no hope for life on the planet. So God created at least 2, and maybe more, nephesh souls that he could insert along the way. And you, my dear, are one of them. That is what became obvious. Now, when he does it that way, he is never going back in time. You are not changing your past such that it could unravel your future. You are literally being inserted in the ordinary flow of time. Now, Leah has a bit of a personal experience in this. Not many people have died and lived to tell the story.
No.
But you have.
Yeah.
You've been dead.
Yes.
And
Clinically.
yes, clinically dead. And what happened when you were clinically dead?
I was in for surgery. Whatever could go wrong did. I went into shock. It became a very severe situation. I remember feeling like stepping out of my body, but if you've ever been to an event wearing a heavy couture beaded gown and you take that thing off, you feel light as a feather. Human language kind of feels.
You were no longer affected by gravity, which means you had no mass.
No.
So you had a soul that rose from your body that was completely weightless because it had no mass.
Yes.
A soul has no mass.
And you think something and you're there. And I felt every answer, very warm place, every answer, every worry, every anxiety and answer was just, everything was good. It's peaceful, beyond peaceful. But I was told
bright, light, lovely, just beautiful.
I was told not to stay, that I couldn't stay.
It was not your time.
No.
I want to stay.
I wanted to stay. Yeah. I didn't want to go back at all. No, death is beautiful.
Not your time.
Not my time.
So an insight into light and time, and what it is like to be taken out of a body and put back into one.
The getting back in, it's rough. You don't like it. It's heavy. It smells. It's cumbersome. It's weird. It's not liberating.
Of course not. You're liberated and emancipated by God when we are, when we're rid of these bodies. It's one of the reasons why I mock Christianity. So first of all, God's not a man, and God cannot become a man. And men cannot kill God. And bodily resurrection is going in the wrong direction.
Definitely.
Absolutely. That's what you experience. Oh, no, I don't want that.
Absolutely.
So it's just foolishness. So you've really had quite the experience for this. And as we move into the text of...
So actually, this would be my second life.
Yes, it's yours. This is what... It's certainly your second in this time frame.
Yeah.
But the way that God does it, there is no rip in time.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Where there would be if, Back to the Future can never do that. You can never have time travel where you go back because you would destroy
the fabric of time.
The fabric of time and cause and effect. So you can't do that. All right. So the last passage that I read said as follows. It was I think it's the 86th Mizmor. And the reason we were citing it was the last statement of the Mizmor following one where Dode was thanking YAHOWAH for sending his, not Dode's, YAHOWAH's Amma. And that because God had sent Yahweh's Amma, Dode was unshackled. His guilt was released. All those terrible things that I shared were no longer holding him back and down or captive. He could admit what he had done was wrong, and God could release his son from bondage. So then it reads, you have decided to act, engaging with me. This is you as Yahweh, such that you working with me serves to provide for me, Asher M. Ani. You want to make and create in collaboration with me a genuinely good, resolutely moral, overtly positive, a sign that is a miraculous symbol of femininity, whose attitude and aptitude are productive and beneficial. He's speaking of the Amma that Yahweh provide. She's genuinely good. She's resolutely moral. She's an overtly positive sign. What you did for me, Dode, is saying to Yahweh, was miraculous. This is a miraculous symbol of femininity. He understood that somebody was being brought into his life from another time to help him in this way, because he did not have a mother that meant anything to him, a mother that abandoned him very young and had no influence on him. And God provided what he needed, a mother whose attitude and aptitude are productive and beneficial. Then those who have shunned and abhorred me and dislike and slight me, they may choose to see and understand and be ashamed and be humiliated for their decision, because you, Yahweh, supported me, helping and assisting me. And boy, did he need it. And he did so through the Amma, as we're going to see. And you consoled me, relenting regarding me, reconsidering your disposition toward me. Wa nakam ani. Boy, what a telling term that is. All right, and that is exactly what we needed. So Yahweh's Amma, productive mother, would be Oath La Toba, genuinely good, resolutely moral, an overtly positive sign, and a miraculous symbol of femininity, whose attitude would and aptitudes would resolve Dode's problem with guidance. So with this statement, as I've shared previously, being so prominently displayed, we should have, of course, noticed this before we did, but I don't think we could have, because first you've got to realize that, okay, so Dode did bad boy stuff. Have you ever known a king that didn't do bad boy stuff?
Nope.
No, they all do bad boy stuff.
Sure.
And, men covet women, and
Boy,
men kill other men. All the stuff he did was a dime a dozen. And
absolutely.
So what? Why would you even care until you realize, wait a minute, Dode is the answer to everything. He is not only the Messiah and the Son of God, but also a prophet, but he's the returning king of forevermore. And he's the one that fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. And you realize God can't have Dode do that unless he trusts him. And right now, Dode had erased his trustworthiness, and that had to be resolved. So now we know why it had to happen. And once you know why it had to happen, and why the earth would literally have dissolved and spun out of control and been destroyed by man by this time, had it not happened, now you're in a position to at least say, oh, I get it. But it takes a lot more than just that. So, to my credit, I was at least sufficiently wise to name Leah appropriately. Leah Winn. Recognizing
prophetically.
Pardon?
Prophetically.
Yeah, prophetic. And, you know, it was just instant. It wasn't, I mean, I didn't read this and say, well, she's,
No, he just
yeah, she is
popped out of
Asher.
his mouth.
And, you know, the fact of the matter is the first word I ever translated was Asher.
Yes.
That means beneficial relationship. And I translated it in the pretext to this announcement, which is 2 Samuel 7, where Asher was written. And it actually speaks of this event. It says, when he is all slathered with all manner of guilt, I have to deal with it. What God said. This is God dealing with. This is the way that he went about solving it. And then I find out, well, that the greatest celebration of Asher is Leah gives birth to a boy, and from I think through your surrogate, actually. And
Zilpah.
yeah, and you your response is Asher.
Mhm.
I am blessed, and this is a great benefit. And as a result of what has happened, I will be known as Asher, and I will be a blessing and benefit to all women and to my people. And so, quite the confirmation.
And boy, was Leah hated by her people.
Yeah. So it turns out ours really was an arranged marriage.
Yeah, turns out.
Yeah, just as I had suspected, often joked, calling Leah
Yeah.
my gift from God. Now we know it's true. And in this way, YAHOWAH further inspired her and my support, of course, collaboratively for his son. We had previously been positioned to reconcile the fractured family, creating a change of mind and heart so that YAHOWAH could relent toward him, no longer harboring his disappointment. The closing lines of the 86th Mizmor, which I've just shared with you, are sufficient to demonstrate God's point. YAHOWAH is committed to engaging with Dode, and as a result, God has decided to provide for his son's restoration so that the king that he established in that role could fulfill his destiny, which is to restore the rest of us by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. He just needed a little assist along the way. And what we are finding out, there were a number of places where somebody needed an assist along the way. Now, while I will cite many more supportive prophecies, I'd prefer to present and discuss the final wood picture before we consider all of the many pretexts and consequences of the meeting that is depicted in the 31st proverb. And as we dive headfirst into the narrative, we find that the mother has a lot to share with her surrogate son, and it comes off as a bit cryptic at first. Then it's very specific and detailed. It becomes graphic. Dublio would be a
It's been Leahified.
yeah, it's that would be a kind interpretation, a genteel interpretation. And finally, it becomes so precise that it leaves no doubt as to the moral of the story or the identity of the woman who is heading this narrative. Nevertheless, I am certain that we are the first to understand it and share it, which is actually not surprising considering the subject and the intent of this meeting. All that said, explaining the cause and effect of this stunning intervention and really trial by fire is perhaps the most difficult task we have ever undertaken.
It was hard, yeah.
Not only are we, and especially my wife, portrayed in it, our king, the man whose reputation that we have invested our current lives resurrecting, well, he was so immoral. Well, he just would not have been allowed to fulfill Chag Matzah or return as king had we not made this contribution. We are certainly earning our king's and our God's trust by having done this. Quite literally, we saved him from himself so that he could save the rest of us.
Yeah, some men need saving from themselves.
Almost all men need savings from themselves. It's that is our nature.
Mm-hmm.
But in most cases, Yahweh doesn't know them or have any interest in them, so there's no reason to do so. With Dode, there was.
Yes.
He would open the very doors of heaven to save his son, and did. That's why you had to be sent back, my dear. Not your time.
Nope.
To some extent, this was a test of our rhetoric and of Dode's response. Just as Abraham passed the test to affirm the proper conveyance of the covenant, the king would have to prevail on this occasion to prove that he could be trusted to enable the covenant's benefits. Obviously, we know that Dode ultimately showed himself worthy, proving that he could learn from his mistakes and be all the wiser and better for them. And he could get back up once fallen, demonstrating that he could be relied upon. And in this, we find additional proof that Yahweh isn't looking for perfection.
God, no.
He's instead looking for character forged in fire. Without failing, we have no way to show that we can be counted on to succeed. Very few things I could share with you, we could share with you, that are as important to knowing that God is not interested in precluding us from making mistakes. He is not trying to keep us from falling down. He doesn't want to soften the blow if we fail.
Nope.
He wants us to be imperfect. He needs us to be imperfect.
You can learn nothing if you don't fail.
That is correct. Not only do we learn nothing and have nowhere to go and can't benefit at all from the relationship if we start off as perfect, or if we continue to be perfect, we can contribute nothing. But most important, unless we are imperfect and make mistakes, stumble and fall, fail on occasion, we have no way to prove to our God that he can trust us. And that is the ultimate test all of us are enduring at this very moment, demonstrating to God that we can be trusted. You see, what God is interested in doing is enabling us to shed these cumbersome and gravity-held
dense bodies, that
are decomposing and enveloping our nephesh souls and our nasama conscience in light energy, so that he can empower us, enrich us, enable us, enlighten us, and take us off of this planet and journey with us through the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions, and even into the seventh dimension, where we now can become travel companions with Yahweh, because he created all of this because he wants to share it, because it isn't nearly as enjoyable when seen alone as it is when you're sharing what you have conceived. But he can't share this universe with us until he knows that we're willing to listen, to be thoughtful, to be responsive, and most of all, to be responsible, so that if we fall, when we fall, we get back up and we can be trusted to learn from our mistakes. Otherwise, it's really dangerous out there. Suppose that one of us decide, I want to experiment with this speed of light thing, and I want to go faster than light, and you destroy the whole universe. Suppose if somebody starts to muck around with DNA and you create a disastrous life form. Suppose you go too close to a black hole and you're leading others astray, and you get to the event's horizon and there's nothing left but shredded souls. So God knows that he's going to give us instructions and guidance so that we can deal with 6 and 7 dimensions And he needs to know that we're listening and we can be trusted and we can be relied upon. And that is what this life is all about. And it's the reason why God caused the fall of Adam. He caused the fall of Adam. We always think, well, he booted out of the garden. What a terrible thing to have him endure. No, it was the greatest gift that God could give to man. Why? Because in that sheltered garden, there was no way for Adam to ever make a contribution.
Ever to build character, to build resilience, to build courage.
He couldn't build character.
No.
He couldn't prove that he could be trusted. He had no adversity. And so God caused the fall of man to give man the chance to stand, to rise up again. Now it's taken us 6,000 years. There are not a lot of us that are capitalizing, but the whole purpose of returning us to Gan Eden is to give the remnant of Yisrael and some select Goyim this opportunity to get our act together and prove that we can be trusted, that we can do better than Adam did, and that we can capitalize on this elongated opportunity that our God has given us.
Or you could be apathetic Adam and Little Miss Goddess YAHOWAH and
and squander it all. But if you are, you're not going to be readmitted.
Nope.
To you. So clearly, Dode is Yahweh's chosen. He is his firstborn. God says that Dode is my co-worker. He says that he is the exemplar of the covenant. That means that God's not looking for perfect people in the covenant, is he? No. He's our savior. He fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim, giving us eternal life, removing our guilt on Matzah, and opening the doorway to God's home so we can be adopted and follow him on firstborn children. Dode is the Messiah that was anointed by Yahweh. He is the king chosen by Yahweh. Dode is a prophet of the first order. He is a phenomenal storyteller, great songwriter, equal parts cerebral and emotional. No one defended God's people with greater courage or contributed to God's story more passionately. His lyrics were typically sublime, but his life, well, it was often messy. And
it was a hot mess.
Oh, he is a
hot mess.
In some ways, Dode being a hot mess, his life being so messy, is one of the great exemplars for us, and an exemplar for the covenant, because it shouts against this religious nonsense that God wants people to be perfect.
Or good.
Or even, good's not a major concern. He wants us to be right.
Yes.
And the idea that some people have taken umbrage with me because as I write these books, like, for example, this is volume 1 of 5, 4,200 pages of what was Prophet of Doom is now the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion. And the changes that I made to this as I went back through it and retranslated the Quran out of Arabic and then compared everything that is said to through the earliest hadith and to when Allah says that he is confirming the Torah and I show it to be the opposite. I made, 1,000 corrections. When I began to rewrite and then augment this series on the this YAHOWAH series that began in creation and then the garden through the covenant and ultimately to the most recent book that I have written in that series, which is called Time of Trouble. Every one of these books I have written and rewritten many times. And some people say, well, if you've rewritten them because you're correcting them based upon what you've learned, then you weren't perfect.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
What are you, 5?
Because if I was perfect, then I wouldn't be learning. Then it would just be a data dump and my whole life would be a sham. The whole idea is to be observant, be thoughtful, pay attention to what you're reading, think about it, make intelligent connections, go to where the words lead, and be responsible to present those the best you can, which I have done over 25,000 pages. And as you learn something new, add to them, augment them, enhance them, and share what it is that you've learned. And if you've learned something that is different than what you thought previously to be true, like it took better part of 20 years to come to the realization that Dode is the Passover lamb, that Dode is the one who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, just as he said he would. And then that requires you to recognize there could never have been a Jesus, and that Christian New Testament is a bunch of trash. And it takes you to a very different place that you have to be very bold and blunt with, based upon this evidence, which is now irrefutable. We have to take this approach there, to rename Jesus Yeshua and think that you've accomplished something. No, you've given a new name to a pig. No, that's not true.
I'll even go further with the religious idea of perfection.
Yeah.
It is so absurd. This human theology of perfection, that not even in Yahweh's own creation does there exist perfection. No.
Well, of course, even Christians want to say that, well, Jesus was the perfect
or Muhammad, and
therefore
was perfect,
he became our sacrifice. Well, how can he be perfect if he's a counterfeit? How can he be perfect if he's the product of identity theft? How can he be perfect if he never lived?
That's
how can it be perfect if you're going to pretend that the totality of God can become a man? How can it be perfect if men can kill your God? It's absurd.
Even in nature, there is nothing perfect.
If we were perfect, we would be a total bore to God. Be no purpose. Why would he even want to show us the universe?
No, it'd be
how would we grow? How would he parent us? What would he get in terms of enjoyment in watching us grow and learn and mature?
Nothing.
The excitement. He'd get nothing out of it. The whole thrill for him is to have communicated what we need to know, and then have the great joy of watching us figure it out and learn, and then to show, wow, you can be trusted. You learned something new. It was always there, and you were willing to go right back to where you were and say, I've got a better answer for this.
It's
and
like
sometimes even the things we correct, we find out, it's pretty close. It wasn't really very far off after all. And that's going to be one of the things that we will discover as we go forward in this text. So no one defended God's people with greater courage or contributed to God's story more passionately than did Dode. His lyrics were, as we said, were typically sublime. But
wait a minute. I can refute that. One guy. Yada. One guy.
More passionate about God's story?
Yada.
No, I think that Dode was certainly the most passionate. I have come to realize that
I think the two of you share that passion.
I have my wife is as prejudiced about me as I am about her. So as we go into 2 or 3 days in the future, and I talk about my perceptions of my wife, you'll have to recognize that is my perception, and it's good that I have those perceptions. You don't have to agree with me.
No.
But this is we can be. I wouldn't say blinded by love, but our eyes can tell us a more complete story when we witness something through love. What she's trying to say is that I have been as passionate and maybe more resolute than even Dode in my pursuit of what God was trying to achieve. I would say that it would be difficult for anybody to be more passionate. At least in Dode's first 50 some odd years, 56 years, I guess, he was as passionate as anyone can be.
Yeah.
But what we find is that the two people that God was most reliant upon to see the plan through, to not waver in their relationship with Yahweh. Moshe and Dode both did a faceplant. They both failed horribly. Now, Moshe went through the paces and got them to the promised land, couldn't get them in. Dode started to think he went the wrong head. And he needed a mommy talk in the worst way. And but Dode, in the last 14 years of his life, it was a train wreck. One horrible
Utter
event
train
after
wreck.
another. But the Amos conversation with him, followed by a dose of very judgmental love, straightened him up. Such that he was able to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakunim in his second of 3 lives, but he did not finish his first life very well. And so as YAHOWAH approached me now 24 and a half years ago, we would be in a different position. The earth wouldn't survive. The human experience wouldn't survive our failure. If I had a Moshe meltdown and said, God, I want you to kill me. I can't do this anymore. The job you've given me is impossible. I recognize the job that he's given me is nigh on impossible, but I've not had a meltdown and said, God, I want you to kill me. And I want out of our contract. And I, to the best of my knowledge, at least in this life, I have not had a man killed and to steal his wife.
No.
But, when it comes to just once God introduced himself to me, now 24 and a half years ago, I recognized that everything that I had done in my life prior was preparation, just like with Moshe. Moshe did a lot of bad stuff because he was in Pharaoh's household.
Yep.
He was religious, he was patriotic, he was political, and he benefited from the caste economic system, things that God opposed. But he recognized they were wrong. He walked away from such things. He tried to defend his people from them. And that presented Moshe with a clean slate before God. So the God says, I can use that. That's what I want to use. Somebody that knows that it's wrong and is willing to engage with me. So I have a history of previously been an evangelical Christian and an ordained ruling elder and a scholar really of the Christian New Testament and being an entrepreneur, understanding business, and at one time being exceedingly political, where I can list the international noted figures that I've met, you've met as well, that would cause most people to blush. I've lived the life like Moshe did that presented me in the position where I could do this job because I came to know them and despise them. And I came to know the systems that they were operating in.
Me too.
And all of that, the moment you walk away from it, it's the beauty of the imperfect conjugation. You're no longer slathered by them. All you really have to do is stop and say, okay, I'm opposed to that. I'm walking away from it. And then you meet YAHOWAH. And so no matter what I had done in my past, no longer mattered. The moment I disassociated from religion and politics. And from the time that God said, I want you to do this, and we made a deal, he's honored his side of the deal. And I think I've done a pretty good job to honor mine.
Yes.
There's not many people that are going to give even God what will be just in this first phase, 32 years of their life, already 24 and a half, 6 and 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's tiring.
And you get almost zero recognition for doing so. And because God is so unpopular, it's
the
like
pay
the
is not very good.
It's like the Moshe experience. Most people are going to hate you.
Yep.
For telling them the truth.
I have a big hate fan club.
I happen to love the job, and I'm resilient as they come. You can't say anything to me that's going to faze me at all. If you want to criticize me for telling you the truth, I'm going to relish it. I'm going to relish it as opposed to being frustrated by it. If you watch my answers on Facebook, I typically leave the posts that call me satanic and all sorts of idiots and moron. I typically leave them and I'll write a response and say, I'm really impressed by your ad hominem response. Clearly, you've got this all figured out.
Clearly.
I might mock them, but, water off a duck's back in this case. So it is true that you could say that I've seen it through, and because God doesn't have a backup plan for this one. And the two people that he has introduced along the way to keep the plan on track are now carrying out the plan. So we are the guardrails, if you will. And God went all in because it's the first time ever he's given anybody the seven spirits, the seven ruach. So God's confident. He's seen the future. We do get this this thing to the end, and in the end, I'm lay down my life, my physical body, and I know that's an irritant for you for me to hear that as my wife, but I'm thrilled because by that time, ma'am, I am happy, just like you. I'm happy to
get out of here.
To be happy to be done with that body, and I'm not getting out of here because the spirit is still protecting my nephesh soul, and my nephesh soul is going to go immediately beside my my king and my adoptive son, Dode, and my father, YAHOWAH. So
you know what bothers me about the idea?
What's that?
Incredibly bothers me. I know there's a role to fulfill. I know that you will be brave. I know that I can trust and rely on YAHOWAH. It's the fact that he puts any hand on your head. That's what bothers me.
Yeah, well, it's Dode didn't get to fulfill Pesach.
Yeah.
By choosing the form of torture.
I know.
Or the assassins, and it was the beast of Rome. In my case, it will be the beast himself that performs this. It's all talked about in Ezekiel. It's the feast of the beast, and eating my flesh, drinking my blood. But God ultimately arranges for the preponderance of my body and the necessary blood that will be used to anoint the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant to be put in place by Elia, and then it's going to be this burnt offering of the Adamah Parah, and I'm going to purge the mortal remnant of Israel. God's overall plan is beautiful, and the ultimate response that we have to have and do have is it's marvelous that God saw enough in us to trust us to do this thing.
What is?
Yeah, to trust us to do this thing. Now, he cheats a bit. He gave us the seven spirits, and he didn't tell us
it's his game. He can stack the deck or play or inserts his players the way he wants. Who's to say to the potter, what have you done?
And he didn't let this cat out of the bag, if you will, or the bull out of the pen, until we were 23 years into this, 22, 23 years into it, is when he finally fessed up and said, oh, by the way,
here's your Amma.
This is a little something that I may not have mentioned to you previously. But,
I'm glad you saved it.
Oh, yes, because by the time we read it and we said, oh, wow, this is the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah. And oh, by the way, you're it. We were prepared to deal with it. Our confidence level in YAHOWAH was significant enough. And we're going to get to that in a few days as we go through this material.
And a good story includes a late plot twist and sometimes a late double plot twist.
Well, this is not so much. The Adamah Parah is not a plot twist. It was the completion of the story that was written all along. The final word picture. Well, that one's a plot twist.
Yes, it is.
that is a really, really good plot twist in that one. So here we are.
Plot twist.
So there is no worse, however, episode that's recorded in the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms than the one that necessitated the motherly advice that is presented in the 31st mashal. So while we will deal with everything that Dode did and what God's response was in reference to Dode's most egregious mistake in judgment, it is presented in 2 Samuel 11 and 12. And from that point, just everything could possibly go wrong. The rape of his daughter, the murder of his son for having raped his daughter, the Absalom rebellion.
Thing.
I mean,
it all just fell apart.
It all fell apart. He became a lousy husband, a failure as a father,
a bad king,
and a very bad king, and a horrible son.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that of the man that
we love,
and that we respect for having fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim, and for manning up, Tigabored up.
Yeah, he did.
And that's the Dode we're seeing coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And
a changed man.
Plus the fact we're going to perceive him more as mother and father than as brother and sister.
Or king.
But anyway, that story is more than just how one crime cascaded into a deluge of bad decision, of plot twists, of disappointments and denials, because we are ultimately reminded that everyone Yahweh chooses, that he equips and deploys, ultimately buckles under the pressure. Including Dode, the most Gabor, courageous, and capable of all men. The only exception is now that we have reached the last few years of this play, he has deployed the very people that he has used previously to keep the wheels on this conveyance of his timeline. So, on this occasion, our king had no one to blame but himself. It's not like Moshe. Moshe wasn't to blame for his meltdown.
No.
The children of Israel were. And I understand that it's a tough job that Dode was given, and he it wore him down. And based upon the introduction to this proverb, I suspect that Dode's vices became wine and women, as he tried to cope with the responsibility of living up to Yahweh's expectations. He isn't the first in that regard, nor will he be the last, but he was the most important.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment Dode succumbed to the temptation of Bathsheba, his judgment was compromised. That would have to change for the king to fulfill all God had to say about him and wanted him to achieve collaboratively. And for this to occur, he would not only need a good talking to while undergoing a detoxification, he would need to demonstrate that when tempted again, he would respond with praise rather than indulgence. He was shown a beautiful woman, but this woman was sent to him by Yahweh, and this time he needed to respect her and listen to what she had to say and not try to override her. He would come to realize that this bright and beautiful woman, even as the most acclaimed, belonged to another, and he was to respect her, but not take her. He was to learn from her, not covet her. The final word picture begins with Dabarim words, and they are the words of Lamo El Malek, God's indispensable king. As such, the dramatic prose of the 31st mashal was scribed by Dode himself, recalling this discussion 3,000 years ago. His words are as cathartic as they are constructive. They are as pertinent as they are prophetic. And when we take a closer look, there is a much deeper meaning to Lemo El. And I should just back up a moment that if you read any commentary on this, the first thing they will say is, we don't know who King Lemuel is because there was no king by that name, not in any country, including Yisrael. Isn't that true? Don't they begin by saying there was no king by that name?
Yes.
So they say that Well, maybe it was
Solomon.
Lemuel was Solomon,
Yeah.
but Solomon wasn't indispensable.
Nope.
Nor was he forever yoked to YAHOWAH, because he did a far worse crash and burn than did his father, and actually ended up destroying the kingdom of Israel as opposed to defending it and building it.
Absolutely.
He started off great when he was a young man, a very, very young man when he ascended to the throne. He was only 12.
Mm-hmm.
He began construction on the home for Yahweh's name, based upon the diorama that his father had given him. It was actually a diorama. I don't know if you know that. So it was a diorama that he was given as to how to build it. He began 4 years into it. He was 16 years old. He gave the Sermon on the Mount about the role that collaboratively I would play in restoring Dod's reputation and returning Israel when he was 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't very long after that he made the same mistake his father made, and too much interest.
Wine and women.
And wine and women for the wrong reason. There is a better way to enjoy and benefit from women than to just covet physicality and to get into the mental, the mind. It's like we had the 10 years to explore each other's mentality and love of Torah before we ever met, which was fortunate.
Very.
I think it's highly beneficial. So this idea that it was Bathsheba having this conversation with Solomon is absurd, because he
the only thing Bathsheba was interested in was putting her son on the throne.
Yes,
that's it.
And she was responsible for the problem.
Mm-hmm.
She was a willing participant in this problem.
Oh yes.
She would have known that Dod was trying to kill her husband.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that she was having, well, her husband, who was a very good man and a covenant member, was off defending the kingdom, that she was going to have sex with another man, and that she got pregnant and they were trying to pull a ruse on. She was complicit. She can't be the moral voice. No. She most certainly isn't this miraculous feminine miracle that appeared to Dod to resolve this problem that is called the Amma.
If that were true, Yahweh wouldn't have killed her child.
Right. So why in the world would anybody assume this is Dod and Bathsheba? It makes zero sense. I mean, you have to be
the
brain
rabbis.
dead, literally brain dead to figure that out, to think that way.
Yeah.
So as we look at Lemuel, law, as it begins, is a preposition. Law as a preposition is commonly rendered as addressing the idea of approaching or drawing near. Mm-hmm. It is commonly said to convey to or toward, and is written as in translations as concerning, according to, or on behalf of. Mm-hmm. And Dod would facilitate our approach to God.
Definitely.
According to the Moedim.
Mm-hmm.
So he is law in this regard. Now, Mo is never a standalone term as a word in Hebrew, but it is famously deployed when addressing the ed, the restoring witness. Instead of this time, it's moel as opposed to moed. Mm-hmm. Moed are the restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony and the spring that Dod fulfilled, and in the summer and fall that I fulfill. That's why we're called the signs of the Moedim, and God referring to us as the greater and lesser luminary in the fourth day of creation. So Mo is preface and explains ed and the restoring witnesses. In this case, rather than being moed, it is moel. So mo of el, designating Yahweh's 7 annual meetings versus now designating mo, encouraging us to ponder the full implications of the life-giving and soul-enhancing nature of God. it harkens back now to Dode serving as the greater luminary by becoming the sign of the Moedim. So here now he is this pursuant to God, while also the Melech. And if you were to say, all right, who are the most important? If I'm going to give you a Melech, who are you going to go to? Oh, the Melech of Melech, King of Kings, is Dode, not only then, but now and forevermore. Melech is sovereign king and leader. It shares a common root with Malak, with the A, giving it the connotation of a messenger, often a spiritual messenger, but not necessarily so.
Counselor.
It can be any messenger.
Yeah, counselor.
Which is also defined as a counselor or an advisor on occasion. So Dode was obviously prolific in both roles. In the pictographic impressions of Paleo-Hebrew, reading right to left, it was scribed as with this combination of letters that is so beautifully presented in the pictograph letters. It begins with, for example, there are 3 shepherd's staff and Lamo El. 3, particularly Lamo El Malak. 3 shepherd staffs. Well, Dode was the ultimate shepherd. So we know we're dealing with a shepherd.
And he had 3 lives.
Yeah, with 2 iterations of water, the mem. So we're dealing with somebody that is life-giving, and something that he would do would be ultimately purifying and cleansing. The tent peg, the Wah, reveals that his position with God is absolutely secure and grounded. The ram's and bull's head in the title indicate that we are privy to someone authorized to lead and someone who will fulfill the Moedim, because they're fulfilled by a ram and a bull. And the Kaf, which is an open hand, is indicative of a man who is engaged offering something to us. So connecting these concepts, Lamo El Melech speaks of the king of the Moed serving God. He is the sovereign closest to the Almighty, whose life we should consider to approach Yahweh. He is obviously King Dode. So the final word picture begins, and we are just shy of 2 hours into this, Miss Leah, because of my interview of you. And so I'm going to share the opening line, and we're going to save so much of it for another occasion. And so that you know, I'm about 45 pages of translation and analysis beyond what I'm sharing right now. And I've written the commentary for the translation, which is complete, through the 21st of 31 verses. So a couple of days more of work. I will probably finish my commentary, and then it will take us to pretext and related texts to drive home what is one of the most interesting insights that I think we can deduce from the Word of God. So here's how it begins. It reads, the words, Dabarim, the message, of Lamo El Melech, the sovereign counselor and king, inseparable from God. This is a profoundly poignant prophetic pronouncement. It's a heavy burden to be borne, while paying tribute to someone tremendously uplifting with strong, heartfelt yearnings, revealed in a prophecy pertaining to the past and future. It is a masha, which means it's a heavy load to bear. It's a problem which must be carried by one who is submissive to one who is more dominant. It is a distressful hardship that must be lifted away as part of an announcement from God. Now, if you want to understand the full intent and benefit of amplification,
there it is.
There it is, not only with the explanation of Lamo El Melech, where every letter that comprised that was explained and amplified for you to perceive it. But all of this that I've just shared was Masa. And when you understand what Masa means under these circumstances, then it is profoundly important. So this is a profoundly poignant prophetic pronouncement, a heavy burden to be borne while paying tribute to someone tremendously uplifting with strong, heartfelt yearnings revealed in a prophecy pertaining to the past and future. A heavy, heavy load to bear, a problem which must be carried by one who is submissive to one who is more dominant. It is a distressful hardship to be listed away as part of an announcement from God. That, as a benefit to the relationship and to reveal the way. This is your title, love. Asher. This concludes with Asher because it calls the M mother Asher. She gains that title at the end of this mashal. We come full circle in this text. That is a benefit of the relationship and to reveal the way, Asher, his M mother, taught to him for the express purpose of correcting him. Yashar here, there's a lot of Hebrew words for learned, taught, conveyed information. It's not the one that was chosen. The one was chosen was Yashar, and it means to discipline.
Spank.
To instruct someone for their edification, for their improvement, to make this individual more disciplined by correcting prior bad behavior. It was written in the Peel, perfect, third person, feminine singular. This M mother, there's one of her. And it was done at this moment that this man benefited. Peel would mean she is causing him to benefit from this verb, yashar, which is to correct. Word picture, mashal, Proverb 31:1. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So the Badim words of the Lamo El Melech portray his encounter with the M mother counseling him, and with the El God revealing himself through them. The Badim are the medium of communication and thought. They are the gateway to knowing and understanding. The Badim are the most valuable tools in the universe. Cherish them, digest them. And it was in Dabadim that Dode was first introduced to us. Well, certainly the most profoundly prophetic statement is in the 18th chapter of Dabadim, speaking specifically of Dode. The 31st mashal word picture is a masha. It's a term which implies many things. It is first and foremost a masha, a profoundly poignant prophetic pronouncement. That is to say that Yahweh brought this heretofore unnamed M mother in to counsel her wayward son, because once sobered by her advice, the king's lives and lyrics would come to embody everything that Masa implies. In these words, Dode is Masa. He is paying tribute to the M mother Yahweh sent to Masha, lift the guilt from her adoptive son, and to pilot everything that he had piled upon himself would be removed. It would be Masha, carried away. And that Masa is based upon the verb nasa.
Lift up.
To lift up and carry away. This remarkable M mother will do for her son what her son would ultimately do and has now done
For us.
For all humanity. What a marvelous term in this regard. Dode was clearly depressed. He was loaded down with more guilt than he could bear. He had become tremendously disappointing to God. So rotten and so self-indulgent at the moment, God couldn't even stand his beloved son's stench. It was that bad. The boy who craved women and surrounded himself with far more wives and concubines that are named chose poorly, and likely came to disrespect women as a result. We begin with Michal. That was a bad idea from the beginning. And it turned worse after the bride price. You know what the bride price was for Michal?
Yes. 200 Philistine foreskins.
That is correct. You know your Torah. Now, you might read scalp of the little head.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's.
I did not offer 200 Philistines foreskins for your hand, Miss Leah, to YAHOWAH.
No, but there will be a bride price.
Yes, there was.
Mm-hmm.
Was paid to Shaul, King Shaul, after briefly protecting Dode from her overtly demonic dad.
Oh, yeah.
Shaul grew angry with Michal, and he married her off after taking the bride price to a rather pathetic man, only to have Dode steal her from him.
Mm-hmm.
That was his first encounter in this regard. Thereafter, he watched her turn against him, doing so shortly after arriving in Jerusalem. Her rebuke of her husband is the centerpiece of 2 Samuel 6.
It is.
And has been shared previously on other YAHOWAH vlogs.
It has.
But when I did that, I did not mention something that is rather apropos to this story.
Yeah, you missed it.
Yeah, because when Michal accused Dode of not being kabod, significant in God's eyes, and of embarrassing himself, in his retort, Dode revealed that the Amma would perceive and appreciate his full kabod value.
She's not a concubine.
It is the Amma that would perceive and appreciate his full kabod value. You would never have picked that up if you hadn't studied what Dode has to say about Yahweh's Amma and all of her interaction with him. Or of go ask Ruth. And Ruth says, yeah, I'm the Amma.
She does.
And I'm delivering the kinsman redeemer to you. Now, his second wife, Abigail, was also married to a man with whom Dode had a dispute.
Oh, yeah.
And while she kept Dode from killing her husband, he died mysteriously within days of the clash. And then she scampered off to Dode.
Serendipitous.
Significant possibility. That was his first murder while stealing another man's wife.
Possibility.
The first to produce a son was Aninom. She must not have been, though, much of a mother, because her son, Amnon, raped his sister, Tamar. Now, that's really perverted. He raped his sister. Now, this motivated Dode's second son, Absalom, to kill Amnon in revenge. And Dode's failure to intervene either time is what caused his downfall, because Absalom led a coup against his father. So you see, this was a real tangled mess. The other four named wives, Maacah, Haggith, Abital, and Eglah, were all claimed in Hebron before the king relocated to Jerusalem, where he added, according to the text, many more. And sadly, none of those wives or love interests are shown ever contributing anything to the king.
Nope.
And one, Bathsheba, proved disastrous. Now, adding intrigue to this story, there isn't a single word or a name attributed to Dode's birth mother.
No.
Indicating that she had no influence in his life. You know, that series, House of David? They have all these flashbacks to David's, can't even get his name right, mother, and all the advice and counsel that mom gave. Yeah,
that's
it's all
BS.
From rabbinic horse shit.
Pucky.
Probably horse pucky. Okay, there we go. So Dode's birth mother, we know nothing about.
Nope.
Don't know her name. He's the most famous person in God's story, the most famous king of all time. And we know nothing about his mother. Nothing, not a word. And his father was a louse.
Mm.
So mother had no influence in his life. And now in his darkest hour, when his lust for love estranged him from the source of love, Yahweh brought an mother into his life. And after their discussion, the king will pronounce that this mother is indeed the greatest of them all. In an inspired text, her Massa heartfelt yearnings on behalf of God's son, Massa, peeled away his self-imposed burdens. She did so by giving him a healthy scrubbing of truth. Now, this mother knows her adoptive son. She knows the whole story. She realizes what he had become. And she bathes him and she readorns him so that he is sufficiently cleansed and presentable to fulfill his destiny. And that is what makes the Massa so profoundly poignant. Dode is Massa, paying homage to the first woman in his life who forced him to confront reality. And the first thing she will tell him is to be beware of women.
Clean up your act.
And never forfeit your calling because of your lust for one.
Wise advice.
Yeah. Killing a good man to steal another wife when he already had a different one for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. And, well, that was a Massa, a heavy burden of the worst order. And it was said that Dode had no respect. It's clearly he had no respect for life. He took it. 200 Philistine foreskins. Come on. And he certainly didn't have respect for the women in his life or for family, for marriage, because, well, he ceased to be an exemplar for his people. He would not only have to override his Massa yearnings and prioritize his responsibilities to be king, of course, he would have to go much further than that to serve as our Savior. Now, this was not optional because the Son of God, well, he was the only one qualified to fulfill Passover. Our all hope of life on this planet is nullified. But that was out of the question and not to be until he could demonstrate that he could be trusted. Our Savior would have to show that he was ready to accept the help of another to share his burdens, such that God could proceed with him to remove our guilt by fulfilling the Moedim. Quite literally, the redemption of all humankind was riding on this intervention between Leah and Dode. As such, this Masha is a prophecy delivered for us to cherish, even at this late date, just months from entering the final countdown to Dode's return as king on Kippurim, because it is what made his return possible. Now, moving on to the third term comprising the opening statement, it is Asher. It's Dode's favorite word, as it is mine. It's the first word that he would write in his initial Mizmor song, the first. And it was the first I translated 24 years ago.
Yeah, he even named his dog Asher.
That's Asher's named after Asher. Not so coincidentally, I first encountered Asher in 2 Samuel 7, which is where this story actually begins.
Funny how it all comes full circle, huh, baby?
Yeah, I was quite the plotsmith. And of course, there it reveals that when guilt is associated with Dode, as it was on this day with his own, during the Moed of Matzah, he would carry his away along with ours into Sheol. And that Yahweh could thereby take a full accounting of it and dispense with it.
But a man can't carry his guilt if he doesn't recognize it.
That is correct. Now, there is a lot more to Asher. And it will take us into the opening book of the Torah, Bereshith, to explore it. So since we are now over 2 hours, and you've been very patient to be with us all this time, and Cara is crying
she's
behind
crying.
a locked door
Yeah.
to be released for the evening. We will stop here. Thank you, Rich, for bringing this to us. Thank you, Leah, for participating in it, letting me
My
interview
pleasure.
you and explore not previously shared episodes of your life, so that the listener, as we move forward with this text, will be able to relate to how specific it turned out to be.
I always said that
For
my
you.
life was an open book, but now it truly is.
Now it truly is an open book. And I feel for you, because the world will perceive, and most people will perceive, this mashal addressing you as a glorious thing for you, and of you stepping out into the limelight. And any time that happens, the first response for somebody is being shown in a way that would earn respect is that human nature is to tear them down. It makes you infinitely more vulnerable.
And my first nature is to run.
And I know this all too well, because I was really happy being anonymous,
I know.
writing these books as Yada. And when I became known, because Yahweh chose it to be that way, it was a tough, bitter pill actually to swallow.
Yep.
It changed my life considerably, because it made me a target.
Yep.
And it's much more difficult being a target than it is being an anonymous contributor.
Yes.
But God doesn't play the game of anonymity.
No, he does not. And he
And-
doesn't care if you're an introvert or not.
And so this is something you would have greatly preferred not to have been the case, but it is the
Absolutely.
case, and you need to shoulder it. And
My preference is to stay a wallflower.
yeah,
That is my deep
that
preference.
it's not. Yeah, it was when we made a commitment we would go to where His words lead, and so
We're sticking with our commitment.
here you are, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome to my world.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Yes.
You are now in the spotlight. Unfortunately, it is very uncomfortable. Fortunately, you
Yes.
don't have to be in it, well, at least on this end of the process, very long. That will change. But, when we are spiritual beings, nothing much is going to bother us. So
No.
At that point, we'll lovingly fulfill the role that Yahweh has established. Now, the one last thing I would like to share, beyond the fact that do not think in any way that Leah wanted this.
No.
This is God saying, I don't do anonymity.
Apparently so.
Yes, apparently so. So
Oh.
the second is that ultimately for Dode, and therefore for the covenant family, Leah and I, as husband and wife, and as mother and father to the covenant's children, which we're called that often, are being established as exemplars. Now, there is this crazy mindset, it goes along with that perfection myth, that an exemplar is somebody whose behavior is spotless.
Oh God, that's so not
But
true.
no, that is not what it means. You have to go right back to the garden. What is it that Yahweh was trying to achieve with Adam? Observant, thoughtful, responsive, and responsible. And that is what we are here to mirror, to reflect.
Here's the exemplar. Basically, in essence, Yahweh wanted someone who would listen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it happened to be that he listened first.
Right.
Then he taught me how to read.
Right.
I listened. That is all he wants.
It's to closely examine, carefully consider, then engage.
And respond
Such
accordingly.
that we are making a contribution to God's overall purpose with us in a way that is enlightened and thoughtful and responsible, and such that as we grow and we make mistakes and we tumble and fall, and we get up and we learn along the way. and we show resilience and determination, and we show some loyalty to God, some
right.
overall respect for him as he is. That is the kind of example that we're setting. And if that bothers you, that God has chosen it to play out that way, then maybe you can talk to him and find somebody that has been more devoted to listening to him and going where his words lead, and then engaging to do what he wants, and then being responsible and learning from their mistakes and being resilient such that they're devoted to completing the task. Maybe you can find somebody that's done a better job of that and substitute them for us. That would be just fine with me, but
Yeah,
good
we
luck
could
with
use a
that.
break.
Good luck with that. I'm not going to hold my breath where you try to find that person.
No.
But that is what God is trying to set off as an example here, not just for his beloved son, Dode, who will become king of the universe, because what Dode will need going forward is a mother and father to support him, to counsel him, to guide him. And that's the role that we're
Somebody
playing.
who knows the plan, who understands what's going on.
And parents are never going to be cowed by their son's power.
No.
And so that is the role we've been asked to play. And it changes to some extent the role of all of those who are most active now in the covenant family, because in that role, we are kind of off to the side, protecting and supporting and nurturing Dode as parents and serving as exemplars of what God's trying to achieve so that he can trust us. And that means that those that will be harvesting the fruit of the tree of knowledge and sharing it with the mortal remnant into the garden, that they're going to be reporting directly to Dode, not to Leah and myself. You know, we currently have a bit of a hierarchy now that Yahweh has set, but that's not going to be that same situation. We're kind of retired in a way. We become Professor Emeritus, if you if you will. Yeah. So I kind of like our role. I've never felt comfortable being set up as an exemplar.
Not me either.
But now that I know what God's trying to exemplify, which is being observant, I'm good with that. Being thoughtful, good with that. Being responsive, really, really good with that. And being reliable, I think we've done a nice job of proving.
I think so.
That we can be counted on in that regard, together and with Yah and with the Torah and on behalf of his beloved son. So that's the whole story. And we will share marvelous details with you as we go forward in presenting the last word picture. Good day.